I'm going to do is, while I'm teaching on this, I'm going to put in some information. Is that okay? Because it takes it too broad. So let me give you some of that situations here. Here's the first thing that I wish I didn't leave out. Okay, there were 6 major journeys of people in Israel's history. 6 major journeys of people in history. 6 major journeys. The first one is Abraham when he went from Ur, U-R, to the Chaldean. Okay, Chaldean. And I'm not going to assume, okay, please, when I do this, one person came up to me afterwards and said I insulted them spelling words. So I'm not trying to insult you. I just know some people may not spell that right. So that's all that matters to me. I don't believe in talking down to people. I'm here to build people up. Okay, that's my passion. So please hear my heart. Now, Chaldeans are spelled C-H-A-L-D-E-N. D-E-A-N. C-H-A-L-D-E-A-N. C-H-A-L-D-E-A-N. So Abraham went from Ur to the Chaldean. That's the first major thing. It took God 2 times to move him. 2 times to move him. Okay? So Abraham leaves and he goes in. He's now living a nomadic life. He's going from one place to the next. The reason why he's living a nomadic life is because God is literally putting down stakes as to where Israel is going to be. Okay? So Abraham puts down an altar at Bethel. That's where the temple will be built. So Abraham is not just walking around doing different things. God is setting up Israel and the temple where it will be built. Abraham played a role in that. So when you see his journey, that's what you're seeing with Abraham. So the unfolding of the Bible, when you're reading it, it's also exposing to you journeys. Okay? Don't forget, the Bible is not reporting history, it's making history. It's not reporting history, it's making history. Okay, so sometimes people want, well, this happened, and I don't see that in the Bible. He's not trying to report history. So there's things that are going to be left out because he's trying to communicate a message. And don't forget what John said. If I wrote to you, just the New Testament, everything Jesus said, the world is not big enough to contain it. Could you imagine if Moses said to you, I'd like to write to you everything I've learned? How big the Bible going to be? So that's the reason why God set this up, because he wants us to go to the world so that we could pick this up and keep going. So there's a lot of things that are not in, there's things that's taken out of the Bible because God is reporting the history that he's focused on. Here's a second migration that he's concerned about in the Bible that is going to determine the message of the Bible. That's when you have Jacob going to Egypt. A big migration of 70 people going from where Jacob was, and I believe, let me make sure I got it right. Jacob was in Canaan. He was in a land of Canaan, I believe. Check me out on that. He's in a land of Canaan, and he takes 70 people to Egypt. And to get him to do that, he created a drought on the earth. He had no other place to go but to Egypt. Now, you say, oh, come on, hold up a minute. Egypt, the way it's built, that's why people couldn't conquer it, is that God allowed Egypt to have a water source that nobody could stop. It's kind of like what you see right now going on with Russia and Ukraine. He tried to freeze them out by bombing everything that could give them electricity. So when the winter came, they're so frozen, they surrender. So they went to food sources and, in our day, power plants and all these different things to stop the people from being able to survive. So they forced their leader to make what changes they need to make. Well, one of the things they did in that day was water. Think about it for a minute. Hey man, y'all are agrarian. If you stop water, could you plant crops? If you stop water, could you feed your animals? Could you stop waters? Could you take showers and clean up? So just water alone could force a nation to fall. So the way he designed Egypt was there's water flows throughout Egypt. So there's no place to go stop this main entrance into water. And so he took his people, and that's why many teachers would call Egypt the incubator of God, for God. So it became a place that's rich. So he gave Joseph a chance to have such access to Egypt that Joseph would know where the richest soil was. So when you go to Goshen, it was one of the richest soils, water sources, everything, because Joseph knew his family were people who were shepherds. Shepherds need their sheep to have water, so they would go all over the wilderness trying to find water. Joseph says, you ain't got to go nowhere. I got all the water sources right here. And by doing that, they didn't need to leave Egypt, so they just blossomed. Are you with me? Don't forget this though. Where they blossom, if you look at Goshen, is right near northern Africa. So the church fathers that helped take this New Testament to England were in northern Africa. Tertullian. These people, they were in northern Africa. And I want you to understand it, because people tend to put the Muslims with Africa. No. The reason why the Muslims made such a strong impact in Africa is because when they came to the northern Africa, they met peace-loving people. And the Muslims were, if you believe, you live. If you don't believe, you're dead. They never made it to Europe, because when they try to go to Europe, Europe says, bring it on. We the Romans, we'll fight you. So that's why the Muslim movement never got to Europe, but it got all the way down, except that it didn't make it into southern part of Africa, because by the time it got to the southern part of Africa, it was running into people who were going to fight. The people in the northern part of Africa were peace-loving people. That's why it spread. Okay? So understand who they're finding there. Christians. Because look at what Moses would say. Leaving Egypt, we have a mixed group of people leaving. Moses marries a black woman. He wasn't supposed to do that, but he had some African in him. He had an extra wife. I'm sorry, okay, don't get me in trouble. So Moses, don't shoot me, don't shoot. But that's one of the, I say that, my Bongomian friends know why I'm saying that. Okay, I'm actually, because we had interesting scenario in Bongoma when I was there. Remember that person with 3 wives? Remember that? So that's why I'm saying it. That's why they're laughing over there. Okay, so please don't take that as a shot, okay? Shot across the bow. So Moses, when he takes a second wife, she's black. She's a black woman. Because some black people from northern Africa left with them. I have a member of our church where he came from. There's a sect of people that only speak Hebrew. So I had a young man on my team, soccer team, when my sons were small, coaching him, and he said to me, Egyptians view themselves as descendants of Africans from northern Africa. So when you see what's going on here, that's why the church fathers are in northern Africa, and it's the church fathers in northern Africa that take it to Europe. Okay, Paul wrote to the church in Rome, Priscilla, Aquila. They're not the only ones. You had Priscilla, Aquila with the church in Rome. You got Phoebe going to the church in Rome. So I'm not saying that's the only ones, but that's the influence. Here's the third journey. Third journey. You got the Exodus now. You went to Egypt, now you have the Exodus from Egypt. The Exodus from Egypt. Did I give you all verses for any of these yet? Let me give you verses. When you finish writing down the next journey, there's 6 journeys that influence the message of the Bible. 6 journeys that influence it. Okay? This is what is left out. I'm putting in things that I shouldn't have taken out. So I want you to see this journey here. One messenger, I am the word. Hebrews chapter 1, God spoke. In New Testament, I speak. All right? One messenger that is holy. So the Bible is holy. And they did a lot to make sure you have a holy Bible. The word Bible, Holy Scroll. Okay. Now, let me go back to the first journey and give you verses. You know me and verses, right? Okay. Now, Genesis chapter 11, verse 27 through chapter 12, verse 9. Genesis chapter 11, that's number one, the first journey. Genesis chapter 11, verse 27 through chapter 12, verse 9. Genesis chapter 11, verse 27 through Genesis chapter 12, verse 9. The second journey is Genesis chapter 37, verse 28. Genesis chapter 46, verse 1 through 34. Genesis chapter 37, verse 28. Genesis chapter 46, verse 1 through verse 34. That's the second journey. Second journey. The third journey is Exodus chapter 12. Well, the book of Exodus is the third journey. The book of Exodus, third journey. All right? That's why it's Exodus, exit. Okay? That's why it's called Exodus. The whole book is about the exit from Egypt. Sorry about that. You don't need to get a chapter for that. But when it actually took place is going to be Exodus chapter 12, verse 40. There is, you can look at this being verified by Paul in Galatians chapter 3, verse 17. This Exodus is picked up by Paul in Galatians chapter 3, verse 17. So, what are you learning from that? Paul again is verifying that what you see in the Pentateuch is true. He's not saying this may have happened. He's saying here is when it happened. This is what happens. He's telling us that I'm building the New Testament off of the Pentateuch, the foundational books. Okay, here's the fourth journey. The fourth journey is when northern kingdom of Israel, y'all know what I mean by that? Let me make sure, because y'all go to Bible college and stuff. Do y'all know what I mean by northern and southern kingdoms? If you don't, you don't. Okay? Y'all are looking at me, so I'm going to assume, I don't want to raise my hand, but I'll let you figure it out. Okay, David. Under David, you have one nation. Solomon, one nation. Solomon went and got 1,000 women. And Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 17 is fulfilled. Solomon didn't just marry these women. Okay, let me at least say that for the purpose of credibility. Solomon came to a time of peace. Think about it for a minute. If your daddy won every war, which means he's killing people that could be, like David stood in front of Goliath at 16. Could killing people from 14 on up, right? When you go wiping out all these soldiers, they're going to take years for people to have male children to grow up enough to come fight you. So Solomon enjoyed a time of peace. In his time of peace, Solomon, using his wisdom, decided to go get women from kings. So you ain't gonna come fight me because you're killing your kids. So Solomon wasn't just marrying these women just to marry them. Solomon was marrying the women to establish political peace. Are you with me? That's what he was trying to do. Okay, it's kind of like this. Why is God pulling up all these different things? Cows, frogs, the Nile, all these different things, and killing them and taking them away. He wasn't just doing that. They worshiped, though. They were polytheistic, meaning they worship everything God pulled up and killed is their gods. So he was showing them before Israel come out. What did Israel come out and do in the wilderness? Worship a calf god. He was trying to get them to not leave Egypt with any of their gods on their minds. If for a long period of time these people dominate you, what you going to think about their God? So to make sure that when he's leaving, that they never think that those gods were anything, God raised up the frogs and kill them. God got the calves and he'll kill them. He was showing that no God that you have in this, and no God that they claim to be in this land is any God over me. Well, guess what is left over? Pharaoh. Who's he view himself as? A God. So the last fight to show that God is God is Pharaoh. That's why there's a Red Sea. The baptism and Pharaoh. And he literally told them, if you went to the other side of the Red Sea, you're going to run into the Philistines, and I have no fight with them. So therefore, I'm sending you this way. Now, please understand. So when you look at what God is doing, he's communicating messages in how he's operating. So Solomon goes out and gets wives in order to make sure that his family becomes such a family of different kings that they don't want to come touch him. The problem with that is these wives brought gods. And when they brought their gods, they moved the nation to, and two things happen here. Their gods, these women's gods, okay? And Solomon's heavy taxation. Solomon taxed people to death. That's one of the reasons he got so rich. He was taxing people to death. So he had gods and taxation. Well, his sons come away from here. He has two sons, Rehoboam. Don't hold me to which part of the kingdom they are. I can't remember right now. Rehoboam, if I spell it right, if I don't spell it right, forgive me. And Jeroboam. I don't remember which part is up there. So he got two sons. Well, the two sons, this one right here was supposed to take over. Let's just suppose it's Rehoboam. I can't tell you specifically if it's Rehoboam. Let's suppose it's Rehoboam who was supposed to take over from his dad. Rehoboam gets a council of people that sits and talks to him, and they tell him, keep the taxation. Well, the people says, Solomon ain't alive no more. He's not alive anymore, so we don't have to listen to you. So the nation split. That's called the northern kingdom. This is the north, sorry. Northern, I put nation. And the southern. So when you're reading the Bible and you hear them say Judah, they're speaking of the south. Because 10 tribes stayed here. Only 2 tribes went here. Are you with me? Okay? This is huge because when you read the prophets, most of them are up north because these people stopped listening to God. Okay, let me give an example. Jonah. Why did Jonah not want to go to Nineveh? Oh, Jonah was afraid of them Ninevites. They were mean people. They were mean. Okay, don't get me wrong. The Ninevites, what they would do when they fight you, they would, to intimidate you, they would make you come naked, and in front of all their people, they would take your skin off. And as the blood comes out of you, they would let it drain into a vat, and they'd jump around in the vat for victory parties, then take your skin and hand it over the wall. So don't get me wrong, they were brutal, evil. They'd take women, if women were captured, they would take them, cut their bellies, take out the baby in front of people. They were bad. So because people who study that hear that, they would say he was scared to go. That was not why he was not going. If you tell people to throw you off of a boat and let you die, how are you scared to die? The issue was Jonah is one of the prophets up here. And this nation, this northern nation, became wicked. And they were not listening to God. But also with Jonah was a prophet named Amos. And Amos was saying, God is going to destroy the northern kingdom. It's over. It's done. He's going to bring some folks from up north. Where's Jonah going? North. So Jonah, believing in Amos, says, I am not going. I'm not going to help you bring these northern people, these Ninevites up in here and kill my people. I'm not going. So when you start to understand the split here, you start to understand some of the messages of the prophets. Okay? Y'all with me? Are you meditating on what I'm saying or meditating on the food that you just ate? Okay, all right. Just trying to make sure I'm doing something up in here. All right. So when I say the northern kingdom, right? The northern kingdom is where watch how this works in the Bible, is where we have this people coming, Ninevites, and they come to the Jews, and from this we get Samaritans. That's why they hated them. Okay? So please understand, on the next journey that we're talking about, the northern kingdom is carried away to Nineveh, to Syria. Northern kingdom is carried away because they were so corrupt. This is how corrupt they were. They said, you know what? We don't feel like going from the north to the south where the temple is to worship God. So we're going to create our own worship system up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get some preachers, some priests, everybody, pay them a whole lot of money so they stay up here and tell us what we want to hear. That's how corrupt they were. Okay? So please understand, then God sent these Ninevites. Why he has to send the Ninevites? Because the book of Deuteronomy says, what does the book, see, back to the basic books. What does Deuteronomy say? If you follow me, you're blessed. If you don't do what I say, you are cursed. Deuteronomy 28. You keep not doing what I said when I'm sending preacher after preacher. You're not going to listen to me. So guess what I'm going to do? Fulfill Deuteronomy 28. Curse. So that's where you get the fourth journey. The fourth journey is when the northern kingdom is carried away by Assyria. You'll find this in 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 9 through 12. 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 9 through 12. That's what you'll find. The northern kingdom is carried away by the Assyrians. Okay? And why is that huge? It's huge because these prophets preaching up north, they are preaching to prevent that from happening. Okay? Now, here's the fifth time you got a journey that affects how the Bible operates. Okay? The next journey is from the southern nation, the folks down here in the south, and the folks down here in the south. That was when they're taken off to Babylon. We know that story, right? Where they're taken off to Babylon, and when that's 2 Kings, chapter 25, verse 1 through 2. 2 Kings, chapter 25, verse 1 through 2. They're taken away to the northern kingdom. When they're taken away to Babylon, the southern kingdom is taken away to Babylon. Okay? Southern king is taken away to Babylon. And the 2 Kings chapter 25, verse 1 through 12. Okay? Now, why is that affecting how the Bible is written? It does. That's where you get the book of Jeremiah from. Jeremiah is doing everything he can to tell them, but he sounds like a traitor. Everything he's trying to explain to them, this is where you're going to go. You're going to Babylon. How could you support the enemy? That's why Jeremiah was so hated. Because Jeremiah is telling them the truth that you're going to go to Babylon and you're going to stay there 70 years. Then some false preachers come like Shananiah and Hananiah and they say, oh no, you're only going to be there 2 years. Don't settle down. Don't do this. Da, 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 da. And they are wrong. Jeremiah said 70 years. Go buy houses, settle down, enjoy yourself, build good kids. 70 years, you're going to be there. So that's where you get the message of Jeremiah. That's where you get the whole book of Daniel. Daniel is in the political system of Babylon, making sure the nation stays focused. And Ezekiel is on the spiritual side. That's why before Babylon, you have the temple of God. When you go back, guess what you have? Synagogues. Where you get the synagogues from? They get the synagogues from the fact that they're in Babylon and they don't have a temple, so they created synagogues. Where did Jesus Christ come visit? The synagogue and the temple. Are you with me? Am I too deep? So to put you to sleep, that rhymes really good. Deep to sleep, deep to sleep. All right. Okay, now. I give you all a hard time. Okay, listen up. So if you don't understand these journeys, you could miss the message. Are you with me? If you don't understand the journey, you don't even know what he's talking about, why he's talking about. So now, for instance, when they come back from this journey, that's where you're going to get Haggai, Zechariah preaching. That's where you're going to get Ezra, Nehemiah, when they come back. So now you got these people preaching. Nehemiah is trying to just get, everybody say he rebuilt the walls in 52 days. Nehemiah actually rebuilt half the wall in 52 days. It was already pre-built if you read Ezra. But they couldn't finish building it because they ran a spice trade right through there. And they never wanted them to finish it because the spices wouldn't last if they went around. And so the minute Nehemiah starts building the walls, that's why he ends up with enemies right away. So understand, when I understand the journeys, I get the message. Okay? All right, here's the last journey, so that y'all don't hit the snooze button. Yeah, it's hard teaching after lunch. I explained to y'all, there was a guy, Pastor Boston would pay people, but I ain't paying y'all. All right? I just give you a break. We just teach for a little while and get you a break after that. That way you could get some coffee or tea. Now, the return from Babylon is the last journey. The return from Babylon is the last journey. In that return, you have two different returns. The last journey is Babylon to Jerusalem. In that return, you have two times they're returning. One is under this guy, and I will spell it for those who don't mind, Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel is the first person to lead the people back. Zerubbabele. Abel, I'm sorry. Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel, Zerubbabel. Now, the next return is Ezra. There's two trips back. Are you with me? When it comes to Babylon, it's not one trip. When it comes to Babylon to Judah, it's not one trip, it's two. Okay? So you got Zerubbabel on one trip, Ezra on another trip. And here's the passages of Scripture. Ezra chapter 1 through chapter 2. Ezra chapter 1 through chapter 2. Ezra chapter 7, verse 1 through 10. Ezra chapter 7, verse 1 through 10. And Ezra chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. Ezra chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. Ezra chapter 1 through chapter 2. Ezra chapter 7, verse 1 through 10. 8, 1 through 21. All right. Huh? Ezra chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. Oh, Ezra chapter 1 through 2. Ezra chapter 7, verse 1 through 10. And Ezra chapter 8, verse 1 through 21. Okay? So please understand, these journeys impacted the message that we looked at here. Okay? It impacted the message. Let me show it to you. It impacted the message. It impacted the message. How did it impact the message? They're going to Egypt. Right? When they went to Egypt, they leave Egypt. Before they leave is a sermon called Deuteronomy. It's a sermon called Deuteronomy. Well, when they leave and they finally made it into the promised land, you got Joshua to Esther telling you how they lived during that time. Well, wait a minute. Joshua to Esther, that includes a trip. What trip? To Babylon. Why is that important? Esther is in Babylon. You see what I'm saying? Esther's in Babylon. This is just a history books. This here is them back. And when they're back, let me see. Yes, because they all play into each other. So let me not do it that way. Because it's not like it's systematic as that. They're all tied together because the history books bring everything together. Okay? All right. Now, what we're going to do is, this is right after lunch, I always do a short one so you can take a break, walk around, you can get some tea, and so we can continue because I know these subjects are deep subjects. Okay? All right? If you want to hear me preach, thanks to Dr. Wongi, I'll speak here at 5 o'clock tonight. Okay? So you don't have to hear me just teach all the time. I'll preach a message tonight, thanks to Dr. Wongi and his church here, Father's House Family Church. They've allowed me to be here because I'm on his network, his television network. So you're welcome to join us at 5 o'clock if you so choose. But we take a break, just 5 minutes. Just kind of walk around and stretch. And I understand, lunch, I get it. If I was sitting there, I'll be the same, not mad at nobody.